Well, good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to WordStream. WordStream, we've got a special show for you tonight. We want to thank all of you for coming on board tonight, and those of you who will be viewing this much later. But we'd like to welcome you to WordStream, where we examine 21st century issues real time from a biblical perspective. We're concerned with community, well being, and lifestyle. And so, what we are talking about tonight is contending for children with roar, necklace, sound. You can't hear me, or what? And I have Miss Terri Barnes online with me, and I'm Eileen Epps-Hamilton, and we're going to be talking about children and the whole issue around reading today. Also, we want to remind you that you can find us on Facebook.com, ITW Ministries Online, or our YouTube under the title of Contending for Children with a Roar. Okay? Again, please share your thoughts and questions that you may have tonight on the topic. On Facebook comments, we'll be sharing those as we go through the program tonight. And I hope everyone can hear us. I don't think we have any technology problems, but if we do, someone can give us a call and we'll fix that real quick. There's lots being said around the reading issues and how do we move through the reading issues. But before we get to that topic, I'd like to introduce each of us. I am Eileen Epps-Hamilton with In the Word Ministries, which is a 501c3 that works with equipping women to live victoriously. Contending for Children Initiative is one of the programs that is under that. And my co-partner tonight and co-partner in this project is Ms. Terri E. Barnes. I'll defer to her, let her introduce herself before we get started because we've got lots to talk about tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on tonight. I'm Terri Barnes with the NIA Project, and the NIA Project is in collaboration with In the Words Ministry and Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church to bring you all Contending for Children initiative. The NIA Project is an organization that's focused on improving the lives of Black girls and women. Our signature programming is Black Women Get Fit, but we also have worked on the Beloved Community, which is a community resource of nonprofit organizations, and our collective work looking for ways for organizations that support women's causes to work better together. And we're excited to be here launching Roar.
Absolutely. And we've been working on this project. How long, Terri?
Like I said 8 months, but I think it's been longer than 8 months. I think
it began like almost in January of 2022.
Yeah, we were just talking in January 22, but I think we really started working in July. It was immediately following the session where we had at the time, the interim superintendent, Jennifer Collier, when she came in and talked about the challenges that public schools and schools across the city actually are still having in the literacy space.
And that was the official kickoff for this whole Contending for Children initiative. During that time, we were able also to have experts from Children's Mercy Hospital, Dr. Sylvia Sullivan, Shayla Sullivan, sorry about that, and also others who were involved in health issues, mental health issues. And so we decided at that time to address two key initiatives, which were reading and also mental wellness. And that's how we pretty much kicked this off as a result of the NIA project and their July efforts around churches and spirituality, and asking the question, what is the church's response to some of the major challenges that our children are facing? We see lots of nonprofits working on it, but at the same time, the question is, don't we have a responsibility to the children in our care? And that's the basis for Contending for Children and the whole model that we have in place. Um, Who are we? We are a faith based initiative. It's our focus to change the negative trends that children are having. We've spent a lot of time talking about awareness, people really understanding the reading issues, the mental health issues, educating them through training that we've coordinated with the various health departments and other specialists, behavior specialists. And again, I said our current efforts are around the current focus of literacy. Um, I'll explain this chart, and then the next one I'm going to turn over to Terri. The key to the success of contending for children is our ability, in the word ministry's ability, to work with the community and establish partnerships with groups such as the NIA Project, such as Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church, and also the faith community in general, and local organizations. As we stated, we've worked with Children's Mercies Hospital. We've also been working with SWOPE Behavioral Health. We have worked with a number of groups we'll talk about later. But that is pretty much the work represented by the green area of reading and literacy and mental wellness and how those groups. And the benefit of this is that children can reach their full potential. And the next one we'll talk about because Terri has such passion when we talk about this. She's our passion person. And so at this point, I'm going to let the next few slides, Terri, share that. Again, I remind you to please send your comments. I'm going to be checking the comment box here to see if you have questions or concerns so we can post those and share with the entire group.
Yeah, it's funny when you say I have passion behind these things, and it is passion. It is passion, but honestly, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we live in the United States of America with all the resources that the United States of America has, and we cannot figure out how to teach a kid to read. And that is not an indictment on the school system, the teachers, the communities, the parents, because it's a countrywide issue. You know, it'd be one thing if it was just our community, but across the country, this is a problem, and it just makes no sense to me. You know, I've heard all the reasons, and I won't. Well, I will read because I know some folks are just listening. So, 34% of children entering kindergarten lack the basic skills needed to learn how to read. 67% of fourth graders read below grade level, contributing to 8,000 students dropping out of high school every day. And then 37% of students graduate high school at or above reading proficiency. So we are graduating functionally illiterate adults. And I don't know how long, but I know at least for the past few years, the business community is concerned because guess what? These are people they need to work on these jobs. These
Mm-hmm.
are people that they need to transition into their workforce. And you got folks that can't fill out a job application. So it is a problem. Some additional facts: 85% of Black third grade students in our community, Kansas City public schools and charter schools, are not proficient in reading. 85% people, that means none of them. 85%, they're not where they should be. A third of the students are considered proficient. Statistics are even more alarming for different demographics, which is ours: low income, students of color, students with disabilities. And we know that if kids don't become competent readers by the end of elementary school, the results are tragic. I think there is some work around the dropout rate of high school. They earn less money, they become involved in the criminal justice system. So it just continues to layer in a negative way if we
And,
don't get the reading right.
and the surprise, and Terri and I were discussing this in between the session, that it was surprising that to learn that reading is not taught after the third grade. So they teach you to read up into the third grade, and then after the third grade, then you have to read to learn. And if you can't read, guess what? You're behind the eight ball. You're behind the eight ball
Yeah,
on
and
that.
we see it. Teachers tell us that, As church members, we see it. When you're interacting with young people, you see it. They don't have the language. They're not able to relate. So you see it. And I just feel like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I just read an article. It was written in January of this year, specifically for the state of Missouri, that says since 2015, the reading scores have dropped consistently. And of course, when COVID hit, it just fell off the cliff. And so, to me, somebody who's not in the education arena, I'm not an academic. I don't understand all of those things. To me, if you're telling me that kids need to be able to nail reading by third grade, and pretty consistently, children are not nailing reading by third grade. Terri, non academic, someone who knows nothing about that process, what would you do?
Absolutely.
What would you do?
And
Because
mhm.
but we're not doing that. We just keep pushing them along, and we add all the other things, and we find ourselves in a pretty hard place.
And one of the myths that is out there is the problem with reading proficiency began with the COVID epidemic, and that's not true.
Yeah,
We
it
were
certainly got
behind,
worse.
no, we were behind before the COVID epidemic, but right now it is at a crisis level. And I think everyone understands that, but the question is, what can you do about it? Where can you come and stand in position? Some people take the position that it's the teacher's responsibility to teach reading, and part of that is true. What we're going to talk about this evening, we are not teaching reading. There are certain skill sets and methodologies that teachers use, but even some of those who are in the classroom really aren't skilled as they could be in teaching reading. And I think, Terri, you had mentioned that there's an effort taking place right now in the Kansas City, Missouri school districts to bring the teachers up to speed in order to help them with this reading problem.
Yeah, so I'm probably not going to get it exactly right, but the state, so this is not a Kansas City thing, but the state of Missouri is providing funding to train teachers, I believe kindergarten through sixth grade, on the science of reading. And I believe they had the funding for 15,000 teachers to go through this training, and 9,000 are at some point part of that process. But I think, this was a comment from last year when we had this discussion. And I think we just need to be honest about it. It seems to me that our community is pretty. We are comfortable with that. We are comfortable with the idea that our school districts suck.
It's been accepted as a
It
norm.
is. It's hard. It's rough. It's yeah, the kids are behind. We kind of know it. Yep. I think I think we've kind of gotten comfortable with that, because what I heard people say when we had this discussion is, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Hmm.
And so now that people see that it's that bad, you start to engage people a little differently, and they want to do something to help, which kind of drives us into what we decided to do.
Right. And there's lots of activities that are taking place within several of the churches around tutoring, about around pre-K and beginning to work with children at that level. There's Turn the Page. There is
Lead to read.
read. There's several groups out there, and for me, all the groups out there, we need all the help that we can get. So
Yeah.
we can't get into a competition on whose program works or not. All we need all of it. Basically, we need
Yeah.
all the help, and so we've got a problem. There is a solution in order to help us move in the direction of success. And incremental success is what we're talking about here when you're in a hole, as big a hole as we're in. And that program is ROAR, and that's what we've been working on: reading often and rise. We've had a design team that's worked with us to develop the curriculum, kind of the process that we would offer for this faith based response. Again, this is about the churches and engaging the churches, helping them to be aware of what is happening with reference to the reading issue, And surprisingly, while we've been out here working on this project, people are so willing to help us. We've had several nonprofits, for-profits. We've had several grantors and funders who have said this is the thing that we really need to do. But guess what? We need the churches engaged. And that's pretty much kind of what our pitch is tonight is how do we get our churches engaged? Terry?
Well, one other thing that I want to say that I thought was really interesting, because the literacy has been such a challenge for so long, and oftentimes when you hear about it on the news, it's being presented in such high level academic terms, even the science of reading and what works and what doesn't work. I think regular folks, moms, dad, aunties, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, the deacons, I think people were kind of backing off of reading, thinking that they couldn't affect it because this is something that the experts need to do. I think that we have talked about this issue so deep and so entrenched that we are scaring our
Mm-hmm.
parents and our family members from recognizing that they have a real important role in being engaged. And I know before anybody starts shooting me a whole bunch of messages that parents don't do what parents are supposed to do, I know we've got some of those too. But I also know that I've been in school systems, I've been in school districts, I've attended meetings with parents, and oftentimes it's not a welcoming place for parents. And so we've got to figure out how to make sure parents have everything that they need to support their children
Mm-hmm.
and invite them back to the table to help solve this problem. Because we're never going to get it right as long as we're asking everybody else to laser focus on reading.
And again, this is really a situation where we've said that it takes a village to raise them. Well, the church has always been that center point of learning.
Center. Yes.
And most of the statistics, and I'm sorry I didn't bring several of those articles, I think I'll just put them up online on our website, have said how critical and impactful churches are in helping children to move forward in reading. Number one, because they have established safe relationships with them, which isn't always present in a school situation. They know them, they know the family, they can approach
Right.
parents. There is a relationship that goes with this whole program. And that's why it's our objective to improve the reading and not only reading, but the enjoyment of reading, where kids look forward to reading books and are comfortable and utilizing laypersons with our local faith based institutions. We have update trained 10 reading coaches across the three churches that are part of this initial pilot, and an additional training on the assessment process. So it is doable. And those people who have volunteered, who thought it not robbery to take time to learn about this, have put some skin in the game and said, this is important to us to get involved. And so that's what our call to action tonight is hey, how do we get you involved in the process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you want me to explain this one?
You got this one.
So the ROAR program really consists of two major pieces, and one is the reading level assessments. So if your church is interested, we would bring a team of folks over to your church along with your church volunteers, and we would train them on the GRI-7, which is a qualitative reading inventory tool. We partner with UMKC, and we looked high and low. We looked everywhere to try to find a tool that was user friendly. And when I say user friendly, it's a non-academic. It's not a non-academic tool, but a non-academic person can work through it. And so we landed on the QRI-7. It is an assessment tool that will help determine what reading level your child is on. And so we would like every church at some point to know what reading level their children are on. And once you have that information, that provides you a platform from which to act. And then the second part of the program is the actual reading program. We have the curriculum set up to be 8 to 12 weeks for grades second through eighth. And those components of the reading program are intentional engagement, guided discussion, spelling words, level reading, and some writing. So we believe, and this is where we want the validation. We believe we're looking to get at least five churches on board. We have three to go through this process and see what works. We're sure that things will have to be tweaked and changed and edited. But we really feel like we have a program that is, I don't want to call it easy because it's not easy, but it's not difficult.
It's doable.
It's doable.
It's doable.
For churches to really step up, get their people involved, and most importantly, make sure children or parents are supported in this reading journey. Because something today, 85%, if 85% of third graders are not on reading level, where do you think your seventh grader is or your 10th grader? Because it doesn't get better. If 85% of them are failing at third grade, it doesn't get better for the most part. So we really need to intervene.
And we were really blessed from the perspective that we had a lot of technical support as we looked at the various design elements for the ROAR program. Felicia Anderson, who is a PhD candidate with the Department of Literacy and Learning at Texas Women's University, has looked at our program. We've talked to her. A matter of fact, she was a guest on Why Johnny Still Can't Read. And shared some of the key factors there, along with Janice Baines, who also is a PhD candidate at the University of South Carolina, to look at the cultural relevancy of the materials that we use in this program, because all of that is very important and impacts our children. We don't use actual textbooks, and we'll talk about what books we will be using with our coaches in this process. Okay.
I don't want to leave out Gina Pace
Sorry.
from UMKC's reading department, who really helped connect us with this qualitative reading inventory and has been very supportive on training and support for our volunteers.
So here's the reading assessment. This is kind of what it looks like. The other part of that is really important is the ROAR reading coaches. And we chose to use coaches versus mentors because coaches are the ones that are not only teaching you technique, but they're also motivating you and building the character and competence and confidence that many of our children need that they may not be getting in a school setting because there's just entirely too many people that may be there. So it's not only the academics that we are looking at and will be assessing, but also the attitudes to see if attitudes are improving toward reading and if they are more receptive to reading as a result of their exposures. The tutoring sessions are 1 hour, 2 times a week with the reading coach. It is one-on-one. If we do find that several of the students are on the same reading level, that it is acceptable that we could do a small group of anywhere from 2 to 4 students at the same time. Again, this is kind of a learning process for us, but it is a learning process that has behind it the statistics and the proven evidence that these are the components that are really needed in a program of this type.
It reminds me of one other thing that we experienced on this journey of talking to the experts and the academics and the teachers and the people who have been doing this a really, really long time. I think that a lot of people are just kind of stuck in what they feel like the reading experience should look like. And I think some folks had a real hard time with relinquishing the idea that regular folks can do this. If we support regular folks, the deacons and the ushers and the choir leaders, they can help really move children along. And it's not just about listening to them read. It's engagement. It's to your point about inspiring them, helping them to have a joy of reading. And so when we talk about volunteers at the church, we want volunteers that can really bring that out in children. So we do want churches who are willing to think about the child when they send volunteers our way. Because if it's old Miss Nellie and she wants to pop a kid on the knuckles, that's probably not the volunteer we want in our reading program. These kids are probably traumatized, having to always test and be told that their reading scores are low and they're not where they should be. So we really want it to be a positive experience for the kiddos.
Okay. All right. Any questions? We asked you to shoot them over the comments at this particular time. Terri mentioned briefly about the partnerships, and we mentioned the partnerships with the churches and the churches that are involved in the program. Right now, we have Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church, of course, which is Terri and my home church. We have New Seasons Christian Church in Kansas City, Kansas, and Park Avenue Baptist Church with Pastor Gregory Stevens, who have been very instrumental in the design, which in the picture you see our key designer of our system, Sharita Harris, who's been most helpful. This picture is at the Turn the Page um, book fair
Festival of Reading.
festival of reading that we attended, and it was extraordinary seeing all the kids that came there. The Turn the Page was again started by our previous Mayor Sly James, as you see there, reading to the kids at that time. But it's just so heart um, inspiring to see kids who love to read, and they got free books, and kids were grabbing up books and taking them home with them. So there's something more out there that we can offer in the way of support for our children as we move through this. The partnerships are very important. We are not staffed at this time, so we are heavily dependent on volunteers. But I used to be on the board of directors for the American Red Cross in Kansas City, Missouri, and we know what volunteers do for Red Cross. Well, guess what? We need volunteers to work on this program who have a passion for children and are willing to engage in this whole process. So I think that's at the end, Terri. If we have any questions or comments from people on the ROAR program, again, in July and August, we are really wanting to engage with churches and get in there and do our initial assessment and then work with the churches to see if they would like to move to the second level, which is the actual reading coach portion of the session. So if you are interested, please contact us at our website, contendingforchildren.org, and or send us an email. And my phone number is there, 913-209-8492. Again, I'm Eileen Epps-Hamilton within the Word Ministries, and Terri is with the NIA Project. Terri, do you have any closing words or wisdom or observations that you would like to share with the team tonight?
Just one thing that I don't think we mentioned, Turn the Page. So through this pilot program where the churches are getting involved, and for the ones that activate the full program, Turn the Page is providing book bundles to all of those churches on grade level, and the children and or the church member will have an opportunity to work with Turn the Page to select the books. So I think that's just a wonderful opportunity. They have a chance to pick if they like trains, if they like buses, they have an opportunity to pick those books. Turn the Page will provide the books that are necessary for that 8 or 12-week session. And we are just really excited to have them on board as a partner.
All right, so we are inviting you to engage with ROAR, and ROAR is about rise, read often, and rise. The end point is about rising, moving, and making progress. And we can do this, but we can't do this by ourselves. And so we really need churches to get involved. So please contact myself or Terri, and we will come out and address any questions you may have. We would love to help you, your children in your church, and to build a stronger community. That's it for today. Okay. We thank all of you for joining us, those who have joined us tonight, and those who will be joining us in the future in reading this. We thank you for the time that you spent with us. Share this video, this link. We're out on YouTube. Share it with those around who may be interested also. And we look forward to being with you later and working on this program. Thank you so very much. We'll see
Thanks.
you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.